Hello everybody, and welcome to the Introduction to SPSS PowerPoint. I'm going to do this one slightly differently for technical reasons. It's going to be better to go over how to do SPSS, the beginning of it for PCs or using it rather, the PDF I'm going to show you and I'm providing to you, that is the aptly named Intro to SPSS PDF. So go ahead and please download that. We're going to walk through parts of it, and then I'm going to show you how to use SPSS as well. So the first thing to discuss is, well, what is SPSS? We'll talk about that. And then how do we get it going? The main purpose of this lecture is going to be getting SPSS open, getting it just kind of basically functioning, so then we can do analyses later. So on a PC that has SPSS, it's sometimes hard for people to find. You'll go and the start button, and then it's under IBM SPSS statistics. That's what it's called. And you don't want to click on the license authorization. Don't worry about that. This is what you want. You want the IBM SPSS statistics 20, and depending on the computer you're on, it actually might be a different edition, but whatever the IBM SPSS statistics number is, you'll go ahead and do that. And when you click on that, it can take a little while on some computers, so don't be too scared if there's, if taking a couple minutes. Don't click on it multiple times. It'll just slow things down. Just open it once. And when you do, you will see that up will pop a couple windows. The first thing it'll ask you if you want to open an existing data source or if you want to type in data yourself. And we're going to say open an existing data source and hit OK. And then you'll have to find whatever data set you want to use. And SPSS data sets, I've saved them in this location on my computer, they are .sav files. So that's for SPSS data files only. You can also open Excel files and CSVs and other things, but the only pure SPSS data file is a .sav file. And if you were to click on it and open it, you would see something like this, where the variables pop up in your SPSS window, the statistics data editor. Now, if instead you were to open it and you wanted to type in data, because you want to make a new data file, you just click type in data and hit OK, and you will have yourself a SPSS data editor window to type things into. And you can follow along the rest in here if you would like. I'm also going to show you how it works in SPSS now. I'm using a Mac. It might look a little bit different, but everything is basically the same. So you might think that this looks a decent amount like an Excel file, and it kind of does function somewhat similarly. But there's a couple things that are important for you to know. So SPSS is basically just one way that you can analyze data. And the way that SPSS works is that every row is a participant, a person, and every column is a variable. And this is important. It can't go in the other way. And so if you, let's say, have a data file, somebody gave you a table or something, you are not necessarily able to just copy how it looks into SPSS. Similarly, it doesn't make sense to just start doing analysis or to start entering data in the middle of your spreadsheet. We're always going to start at the upper left. All right, so if you were to click in one of the cells, you could type, and typically in statistics classes we're using numbers. So let's say you want to enter 56. You can go ahead and do that. Well, you'll see that it automatically creates a variable, and it's auto-named. In this case, it's var00001. We can change that, but just for now, the point is that we have a variable of some sort, and we have our first entry for our first person. So for person number 1, they have a score of 56 on this variable. And then you can go ahead and enter in whatever the other values are for your other people for that variable. Another way you could do it is instead come down to the variable view. And in PCs, it's located over here oftentimes, but you just wherever it says variable view. And this is where you can get information about what your variables are, what they do. So let's say we wanted the first one to be called, instead of var 001, maybe it's an ID variable. Maybe the next one is happiness. Maybe the next one is religion. It will then create variables. So if you go back to data view, you'll see we already have those variables created, and all you have to do now is enter in the information, enter in the data. Now, if we go back to variable view, you can see that there are different types of data that you might have, that there's a 3-dot kind of box that you can click on. You can change the type of data. We are largely going to be doing numeric data. You can change the width if the data are so long that you need more information, the number of decimals. You can change labels and values. For now, we're not really going to worry about that, though. So once you have your information in, or once you have your variables in, you can just go ahead and start entering whatever the values are for however many people you have. And at first it'll be a little bit slow going, but after a while you'll actually get pretty quick at entering data in. So let's go from just making our own data, and let's say that you've already created it and it looks good and everything. Well, here you are. These are the data that we will be using largely in this class, course data S17.SAV. You will get to know this data set pretty well over the course of the semester. This is a data set that is comprised of 1,629 people. And these are all people from University of Montevallo. It goes back every class that I have taught here. You can see I have terms going back to the fall semester of 2013. So it's a very, very big data set in terms of the number of people. It only has these few variables, though. It has their ID, the purple, are they a purple, green, or gold? I'll expand that so you can see what the variable names are. That's just so you can see the coding for the purposes of analyses later in the semester. I've also entered labels, so it's a little bit more interpretable there. So first one up here, you purple, gold, or green, and it gives you the coding in there. So people who are zeros are purples. So this first person is a purple because they are a 0. Then we have gender. Are they females or males? Political affiliation, year, their happiness, how much they like the university, their home state is, their religiousness, and then their handedness. And we don't have data for everybody there that was entered later in the process. So we have all of these data, and you also will be gathering data from 10 students on these questions. You can call them, you can text them. I don't particularly care how you do it, but that's part of your assignment for the first assignment for SPSS, is to get 10 people to add in. It's going to be added to this data file, and then also you're going to be doing your own statistical analyses on those 10 people over time. Now, a couple other things to note about this. We're going to just kind of go through the menu options up here. So in File, you have a lot of the kind of basic things, so opening data, closing. The ones that you will oftentimes use are print. So when you want to print your data, you're almost never going to be using the printer, at least on campus, and I don't want you to do it yourself. So instead of that, we are going to use different ways to kind of get data off of the computer. You also can save your data And when you do that, you should have a name on it that you will remember, because we're going to be coming back to this again and again. You are going to be able to manipulate your data in the Data tab. We're not going to mess around with that now, but I just want to give you kind of an overview of where this is. We will not use the Transform menu at all when we are in this class. The one we are going to use the most is Analyze. This allows us to do descriptive statistics, means, standard deviations, etc. We're going to do t-tests here, ANOVAs. We'll do correlation, regression. So we'll be doing several of these functions under the Analyze tab. Otherwise, we're not going to be doing a whole lot. Now, one thing that you might have noticed is that when you open SPSS, up will come not only the data editor window, but the statistics viewer window. And the statistics viewer keeps a log of everything you do, all the changes that you're making to your data file, or all of the analyses you do. This is where the analyses show up. So for example, if you were to run, let's say, descriptive statistics on happiness, and we hit OK, it doesn't come up here. It doesn't come up in your data editor, in your spreadsheet. Instead, it will appear in your statistics viewer. So this data file, after you get it set up, it's not going to change ever again, no matter what analyses you do. Everything that is going to change, at least for our purposes in this class, is going to be here. And as I said, it keeps a running list of what you do. So if you were to do another set of analyses, and let's say you add in how much you like the university, well, see, it keeps what we've previously done, and it adds the new information. Now, you are able to delete this. So if you were to click it and right-click and hit cut, it can go away. You can also edit the information in here if you want. You can add notes just for your own sake. But this is really where, when we run statistics, when we actually use SPSS, this is where the output is going to come. Now, this statistics viewer is different in how you save it. It is not a .sav file. Instead, it is a .spv file. .spv files can only be opened, I'm going to say this very repetitively over time. This SPV file can only be opened on computers with SPSS on it. It is not at all like an Excel file or a CSV where you can open it on computers sometimes don't even have the original program that was used to make that. Only computers with SPSS can open .spv files and .sav files. Because of this, we have to kind of work around this problem. So this SPV file here, your work, let's say you come to campus and you do your work and then you want to go look at it back in your dorm or your apartment or wherever. Well, that's a bit of a problem, right? Because you're not going to have SPSS on your computer. So how do we get around this? Well, instead of printing out the data, because I think that's kind of a waste of paper, and if you lose that paper, then you're done. What you are largely going to be doing is printing. So you'll be printing a PDF of your information. Now, on a Mac, I can't really show it to you. But what you'll do is you'll try to select a printer, and you will select the Microsoft XPS file is one way that you are able to do it. And you will end up with a PDF similar to that. You might also have an Adobe Acrobat, and if you were to do that, then you could save a PDF. It really depends on what your file types are, or what file types are available to you on your computer. So do not print off your data. Do not send yourself a .spv file. Instead, you will want to for your data output, you'll want to do File, Print, and print a PDF or an XPS document or some type of document like that. If you are having specific issues yourself, you can ask me and I can walk you through it. And then you can email it to yourself so you have a relatively permanent record of the analyses, and you'll be able to print that off later as many times as you want if you lose it. So that will make it so you can actually do work away from campus. If you are using a Mac, instead of printing it, you would do File and then Export, and then you can create a PDF in that way. And depending on your version of SPSS on a PC, you will be able to do that as well. Okay, so what are you going to be looking to do now? Well, you need to open SPSS documents, open data from an old SPSS document. I want you to be able to open data from an Excel or a CSV document following the instructions in the PDF. I want you to be able to select variable view and change the names of your variable, view and save your statistics viewer, and then save your SPSS document, which I just realized I didn't fully show you, but you would just do File, Save As, and then save it by whatever name you want. And so if you're able to do that, you will be able to do what is in your assignment, which is have 10 UM students, and they do have to be UM students to fill it out. If you do not have access, cannot get a hold of them for whatever the reason, you need to talk to me well before it is due. Enter the data into Excel using the file that I have provided you. So there's a class questionnaire on Canvas you can see on the Canvas assignment. So fill that in to the SPSS file, and then enter the data into SPSS by hand, and you will upload those data to Canvas in the assignment tab. All right. If you have any questions, I know this is actually the surprisingly most difficult part of using SPSS for many people. So feel free to make appointments to stay after a test, and I can show you guys how to use it. All of that kind of stuff. Just let me know what you need.